Hello and welcome to another video. So I know we've covered some Darkfeast Unlimited decks before, but we're going to be covering one again. As I mentioned in some of my last videos, we're at this point where all we can really do is go back over some of the other decks that we've already covered and see how they're performing now in the current meta, as there hasn't really been a big meta shift, so I don't expect big changes, but we will be getting closer and closer to that mini expansion, which should shake things up a little bit. So, going back into it, of course, pretty straightforward Darkfeast battle list, all running a very standard first turn engine, trying to get out preferably Bloodfed or Disciple of Lust as one of your two opening moves, then from there moving up to your 2-drops to really kind of close out that gap to get the Florus on turn 3. Otherwise really it's just a matter of upping your count so you can get Darkfeast, Bat, Omen of Lust, Evil Eye Demon to be really valuable. So we're going to get right into this and take a look. So our first game is Blood versus Portal, which is a pretty decent matchup. Typically Portal has a little bit of an edge, although Blood can really kind of swing it in the early game if they start off well, although we are going second, which does put us in a bit rougher of a position. It's not going to be the be-all and end-all though. We did start out with a pretty optimal hand, 2 0-drops and a 1-drop, which is Bloodfed is pretty much perfect. Since we can play Bloodfed on turn 1, get that self-damage rolling, that's pretty much a guaranteed 4 self-damage. Then it's really just a matter of getting the Florus play out. Hamlin, not really an issue. Decided to go for the Disciple since I've already got the Servant of Lust in hand now, and we can use that with Gift of Bloodkin and Restless to pull it off. And if they had have left up this, I wouldn't have even had to waste the gift, which would be good, but they did decide to take it out. So we're going to get it now. It is a little bit more dangerous since the Florus is going to be killed pretty much immediately by the Maisha and the Bat. But I think that's worthwhile when you consider what we will be left with. So I think it's definitely the worthwhile trade. Another Maisha. Very interesting they've spent both them 2 Maishas so far. Definitely looks like they're pushing for a Deus Ex Machina. So I get another Florus out, why not? I mean, we had it in hand, there's not many other decent plays to do. I suppose we could have went for the Blood Pact Spiderweb and hoped for something else, but I didn't really want to take that risk. I'd much rather just curve out nicely and use it then. So this is their third Maisha, really pushing that. It does mean they're probably not going to get their win condition from the Maisha now, they're definitely going to be playing to the board. Which is good for us because Darkfeast Bat does really well when your opponent runs out of win conditions. Pushing out the analyzing artifacts, so they're definitely going wide. Trying to get as much value obviously as they can. Again, not an issue for us, we're actually going to handle this very, very well. And while I can't completely deal with this now, we have got an okay setup, especially since Omen of Lust is drawn. We can actually take the majority of this out pretty okay and go face some decent damage. So we do have 9 damage, of course they will heal 2, so realistically we had 7. But that's more than enough to really kind of set ourselves up. They would now have to waste so many resources dealing with this that obviously it wasn't worth their time. And for the next game, we are up against Sword. Another match where it can be a little iffy depending on what position you're going, and we're going first, which does give us the edge. So now we just need to hope for a half-decent hand. That's not really a good start. Hopefully we can get a better draw here, and that actually is a lot more improved. The Bloodfed and the Razorry are actually really nice pickups, and the Omen of Lust should be active fairly early on, so definitely worth using. And of course getting the Bloodfed out super early really does help. I was going to go for the Razorry here, I think that was probably the right move considering it doesn't look like we're going to have the Florus available to us. So really I just need to prioritize damage, getting as much as I can, and setting up as much as I possibly can, as Double Omen is good, but not so good without a way to actually win. Blood Pact. That's actually a half decent draw, and double Disciple of Lust. That one's a little rougher, unfortunately. At least we are getting some decent damage in, which is important. White Paladin. It's not a fun card to go up against. On the bright side, we should get to keep one of these. And we should be able to actually deal with this since the Omen of Lust is active. I mean, we can't do a lot with this Omen of Lust. It's really just going to be dealing with the board. Making sure that it's got enough body that it has to be dealt with. Especially since we're playing the Bloodfed here. So we put ourselves in a little bit of an awkward position just in case. I mean, they got the Heaven's Gate, which is a good play. Not so good for them since we actually could have just went straight for Darkfeast Bat and won. I completely missed that play, to be honest, when I was looking at this. Not that it mattered because these Omens gave us the same win condition. It just would have been much simpler to just play out the Darkfeast Bat and win the game, but to each their own. And now for our last game, we are going up against Dragon.
Time to get started.
Nothing to say about Dragon, really. Usually it's pretty favoured in Blood's direction. Of course, Dragon could pull off an absolutely insane hand. That does happen occasionally, but I do find typically I'll have the better average. So, Disciple of Lust, turn 1, don't really have any other play. I have got a nice setup going forward, I just need to make sure I can get that setup. So Blood Pact to try and get what we can. Unfortunately, they were some of the worst draws I could have got. I was really hoping to get some kind of damage card, so turn 3 could actually be half decent. Unfortunately, we didn't end up getting it. So now all we can really do is try and protect this board. And that's definitely a good play on their part. But was it enough? That's the real question here. So we're going to be able to take this out. Restless is a okay draw option since we don't really have any other choice. And I want Omen of Lust to be active soon. Assembly Droids. They're going to go face, 6 damage, taking half their remaining health. Doesn't look too promising. Luckily Vera should do the job though. Vera will at least protect us and allow us to play out a few cards here. We can actually set up the Parish to actually give us some health back, which will be nice. And we can even play the Gift if we just want that little bit of extra ping damage and effects going on. And if we can destroy their big followers, they can't actually kill off Vera, which is pretty much the aim for them at this point. I mean, they can definitely kill off Vera, but it's definitely going to be a lot tougher. Now they have to waste this Assembly Droid getting rid of Vera just to deal 2 damage, which will be healed pretty much immediately, so really not good for them. And our Omen of Lust is now playable. And while I could go for a fair bit of damage here, which may still be an okay play, I definitely want to wipe the board as much as possible first. So we get to wipe this all out, and get 5 damage to the face. Played the safe route this game. Omen of Disdain, so the best hit for them would be to kill off my 5-3, or 5-2, sorry. Unfortunately, their ping wasn't too great. And that gives us a chance, at least. Razor Claw. Not quite what we need. So that's a little disappointing. But we'll try and set up again. We are top decking now, but we are on turn 8 next turn, so it'll definitely put us close. Luckily, with no Evo, they weren't able to get the lethal with that, so that is perfect. And we end up Snarling Chains with 2 health remaining, just enough to close that game. A very close one, that is for sure. So this deck is definitely still extremely solid. If you're looking for something, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. Even with mini expansion, I don't see Darkfeast Bat really dropping out too much. It's always going to be a reasonably solid deck. It also isn't super duper expensive compared to other decks right now. I mean, this one in particular is really only running 8 legendaries, which is a pretty standard number for most competitive decks now, compared to say 12 in some of the really high-end decks. So this kind of middle of the road. Plus, if you've been playing for at least a little while, you should at least have the Darkfist Bat package with Vera and Darkfist Bat itself, and most likely Omen of Lust, so this deck will be a very easy craft in that case. If you guys did enjoy this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. You will find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, guys, see ya.